Chocolate Diddlers, or My Puppy's Dead, is the 12th episode of Season 8 of 2.5 Men. This is directed by James Widdoes, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. It's a good episode, but the ending, and I'll talk about the ending when we get there, is so terrible. It is so unsatisfying. I feel like a scene is missing. And not every episode has to end on a cliffhanger or the most poignant note, but it was just really underwhelming. But everything else was absolutely fine. It starts off with Charlie in bed with Courtney, and they both realise they don't want to have sex with each other anymore. They've done it too much, the passion's gone, they just don't care. But it's not a negative scene. They're both kind of really happy that they're both on the same page, and we have some really great dialogue between them. I thought it worked really, really well. And then the following morning, Charlie is in the kitchen with Alan, and Charlie's clearly in a strange headspace because he obviously left things with Courtney on a good term. They're both on the same page, as I said, but it's clear that he's kind of bothered that another relationship has ended. And this is further reinforced when later that evening, Charlie's writing a jingle at the piano about chocolate diddlers, which I have to say is a very, very strange name. I don't have a problem with it or anything, but it's certainly a strange name for a chocolate. So that was a little strange, but then we get to hear him play the jingle, which I always love. I always love hearing Charlie's music, and it's depressing. It's miserable. As Alan points out, it's not exactly the kind of song that's going to sell chocolate to presumably children. To get out of his own head, to maybe try and cheer himself up, Charlie then goes to a bar where he basically tells his entire life story to a woman he meets at the bar, and it's a lot. It's intense. It doesn't necessarily paint him in the best light, even though not all of his relationships have broken down because of him. Yes, obviously a lot of them have, but I think it was a lot for anybody to receive the first time they've met him. And Charlie's still not in a good headspace, so we cut to him bringing beer to Jake's party that's happening at Judith's house, and obviously he leaves. And as Jake says, he's a crazy bastard, but he's got good manners. It was nice of him to bring beer to the party. Granted, they're underage and can't drink, but nevertheless, his heart was in the right place. Alan is in bed with Lyndsey, and I feel like the last thing he wants is exactly what he gets, because Charlie starts knocking on the door. Charlie comes in, he's obviously drunk, he curls up on the end of their bed, and, well, as we learn later, he falls asleep. We cut to the following morning, and Alan is in the kitchen. He's on the phone with Judith. Judith is obviously annoyed by what Charlie did, as if it was Alan's responsibility to tell Charlie to not go to the party. Sometimes Judith is a little ridiculous. And then Charlie realises, having woken up on the foot of his brother's bed, maybe he needs to go and see Dr. Freeman. So he does. And he talks with her about his want to have a meaningful relationship and the efforts that he's done to try and achieve that. And I have to say, credit where it's due. We have seen some fantastic character development with Charlie over the last, I'd say, 2 seasons. And he does try so much harder than he used to. So it is upsetting when another relationship has, in his eyes, failed. I'll be honest, I don't think the relationship with Courtney was ever going to be something long term. I don't think either of them, well, certainly I don't think Courtney was in it looking for a long term meaningful relationship. I don't know if Charlie was. I kind of feel like if he thought about it, maybe he wouldn't want to be with Courtney forever. Maybe he would, I don't know. But certainly I don't consider that relationship to be a failed attempt at long term commitment. But maybe Charlie does. And Dr. Freeman suggests that Charlie find some friends, because every time he meets somebody, well, it's always a woman, and he always tries to have sex with her. He doesn't really have any meaningful relationships outside of trying to develop a long-term partnership. And I feel like, on the one hand, it does make sense to try and have other people in your life to build up a support system, but I also don't think it's necessary. I think there is this pressure from society to have huge friend groups, and I just don't think it's necessary. So I don't think the message is perfect. I feel like, at least this was my reading of the situation, I feel like Dr. Freeman was basically saying, your life will be better if you go and make friends. And basically you'll have people to offload your problems onto. And I don't think that's the right approach, because I feel like Charlie is then trying to find friends for the wrong reasons. But at the end of the day, if you were to go out and make a genuine connection and have a meaningful friendship, that can only be a good thing. And he and Alan then go to a bar, and well, nothing really happens. They then go home and have takeaway instead, which sounds like a much better night. And then we have the final scene, and that's it over. They have takeaway. They're in a good mood. They're having a good time, and it's not satisfying. There's no resolution. There's no moving the narrative forward. There's no real progression from Charlie. Yes, he admitted that he was having concerns about his inability to have a long-term relationship, but we knew this already. This is not new information. It's just helping to solidify what we already knew. So we didn't really achieve anything. And also Charlie didn't make friends, so it didn't then display that actually could be beneficial. We didn't get to see that being played out. So this episode doesn't really offer anything other than being entertaining, which is fine. As I said, not every episode has to be massively impactful, but the ending needed to offer at least a little something. It needed to wrap things up a little bit. Even that final scene could have been the same. It could have been Alan and Charlie having a takeaway together, watching television, but we needed a bit of dialogue, something to end on that was a good takeaway, something that was not just dropping the episode off at the end. It genuinely felt like they just cut a bit off of the end. So the ending isn't very good, but the rest of it, it's great, it's fine. It doesn't offer too much, but it's still entertaining, and ultimately we get some, not necessarily character development from Charlie, but again, reinforcing the development that we've already seen. Chocolate Diddlers, or My Puppy's Dead, is quite a title, and definitely an interesting episode for the most part, but the ending could have been a lot better.